friends, was a quick look at what's coming your way. Hello and welcome to AI for All Global Live. I am Prabhat Kumar, and today we are unlocking the ways to make AI truly yours. In the next 45-50 minutes, you will learn the tricks that make ChatGPT or any similar AI tool remember your context, think deeper, and deliver results. So grab your notepad, keep the chat open, and let's start by fixing the Gajini problem of AI. For the entire session, we will be using ChatGPT free subscription, and that is intentional, so that you see what is available and what all you can do without even needing the premium subscription. This episode is the first episode of ChatGPT Zero to Hero series, and we have a complete set of episode lined up, which we will talk about a little later. With that, let's move on to the main story. The Gajni way of ChatGPT mastery, and as you might be knowing that this movie is very popular, Gajni, or there's also a similar movie in Hollywood. It's a quite popular movie, and you might have seen behavior of the actor in this movie, which is sometime forgetting the context, and he is using certain tips to remind what is his mission, okay, and what he wanting to do. There are some similarities, although it's not like one-to-one, but there are some similarities that fits exactly with AI systems. Okay. So for this story, we will use a story of a girl named Joy who is running a small wellness studio in Bangalore. And like Gajni Memento, Joy learns how to beat forgetfulness by building a system and how she can make use of clever tips and tricks to make the best out of ChatGPT. And all along this session, we'll also use a trick that itself is a trick of a release pattern, wherein you ask ChatGPT that, hey, don't just throw the outcome, first wait for me and complete my questions, or there's some conversation, and then throw the outcome. Okay. That's a tip in itself, but we will follow that approach as we go along. So without any more delay, let's get to the topic. And the first one is start with the context. And this fits very nice with the Gajni rule, wherein every chat is a blank slate at scene setting. And I know, and some of you might be using the plus version, or some might already be using ChatGPT to a very advanced way, and you might say that now it remembers the context. So there are some advancement which allows you to remember the context, but nevertheless, the context is your biggest problem still from many an angle, and especially when you are using ChatGPT free version, and when you get from one window to another window, your context is lost. So let's see it rather than just talking. Let's look at it. What do I really mean? Okay. So if I say, and there is my ChatGPT Plus, it will go very fast. If I say write a post about morning yoga, I get some response. Okay, and it's a good enough response about yoga. You get to see certain things, but it's it did not fit, and sometimes it may fit that what's going on in my head. Why am I asking about yoga? So AI didn't know it. It's not in my head, right? It knows only as much as I provide. So I need to provide some more information. And that's where this context comes into picture. When Joey said that, hey, I run a small beauty and wellness studio in Bengaluru. My audience is busy working professionals. I want a short Instagram post about how morning yoga boosts energy before work, friendly and simple. So give me a response. Okay. Now, this is the way you provide the whole context. By saying all this, you inform AI what is the reason why you are asking to give something about yoga. If you provide this information, your response get much more richer. Okay. And as I said that we are following this approach of wait and ask questions and only then provide the response. This is a super powerful technique, and I highly recommend you to make use of it. It will make your solution much, much more powerful. Okay, so for example, it asks a certain thing, and which AI thinks it's important to create a right answer. Like, what's the vibe of your brand voice? It's a calm, mindful. Do you want the post to mention your studio name? Would you like me to include a call to action? These are very relevant things. You may not realize that whether should I have it or not. But by giving AI this opportunity that you ask three quick questions, you you make AI know the things. With that, it can create the best result for you. Okay. So let's say I say that first one, I want to go with calm, and second one, I want to do a yes. And third one, I say that it's asking what is your, mention your studio names. I say George Wellness Studio. And then third one, I say that, would you like me to include a city? Yes. Join morning class. Okay. Now let's, and there could be some typos, so don't mind that. And I say that go with this. Okay. Now the response comes much more richer. It still talks about yoga, that why yoga is needed, but it is grounded to your need. Morning yoga gently wakes up your body, clears your mind, and fills you, and then it connects it with your need, and then your rework is much more lesser. You get exactly what you're looking for. So that was our tip one. Okay. Tip one always takes some time because we need to we need to give some context also to our audience. And this was the context. Now let's go to the second one. That's the given identity. So we give the context, but what if we also give the identity? AI works wonderful if you give it an identity. For example, if you just say that someone is writing this thing, or when you say that this is written by Joey's coach, okay, things get different. Okay, so role gives a right lens to AI to operate in certain way, and it makes it much more powerful. That what role it's playing. Okay. So I say that you are a wellness coach for a neighborhood yoga studio. Now ask me and certain things and go ahead. Okay. So I say that fine. And again, we gave it opportunity to ask three questions. So it will ask the questions that it thinks will help it generate the right outcome. Okay. So what's the tone you want? Should I mention time of the day, morning or evening or something? Yeah. And do you want the message to include a CTA? Okay. These things are very handy because for a lot of discussion that I do, I don't even know. I'm still thinking. And so I don't know what all information someone might be needing or AI might be needing. And this helps me to get those questions. Okay. So let's say I say that soothing. And for the next one, I say, and I'm for simplicity, I'm just choosing the answers that it gave already. And that's it. I say, go ahead. Okay. Just say go and then it goes. It's AI is obeying to our guidance, which we have given here. Only when I reply, go release the final message. Okay. So all those people who say that AI is not obedient, you need to rethink. Perhaps we are not asking the right question. Okay. Uh, because there's only one way you interact with AI, and that's general language. So your language has to be precise, conflict-free, and it works like a charm. So then you get a very targeted response and very appropriate response that you're looking for. Okay, so that's about the defining the role and how it does wonderful job. Then a goal. So if you also provide that, fine, I want to create an Instagram post, but I have an ambition for this post. Okay, I want this to reach my post to certain kind of people. Okay, uh, or I want to have certain kind of people clicking to my subscribe button or whatever. Okay, that gives it a much more guidance that how to tweak, because words are the wonderful capability of AI, right? So if you guide it, it does very well. Here in this example, you are a wellness coach. We give the role, we give the goal, and then we say that we follow our pattern, and we ask for creating an Instagram caption. Okay. So this is something I will leave for you to do practice. After the session, we will also provide this whole tip book, so you can also practice, and I'm intentionally leaving it so that you have some job to do. Next, moving on to adding constraints. So now, so far we saw context, we saw role, we saw what was that last one? We saw the goal, and then comes the constraint. Okay, and constraint is still an very, very powerful thing. Then if you bind it that I want to write for Twitter, okay, and I want this to be English because I have more English in the speaking people. These things help AI a lot more, because that then bounds the boundary. So that's another bit with which you can get very, very appropriate response that you are looking for. So let's see with this example, right? A WhatsApp invite. You give the context, and context is also that WhatsApp invite. It's not just any invite. Okay, it's a WhatsApp invite. And then you're saying that these are the constraints: less than 40 words, English, warm tone, ends with a friendly CTA. And so some part of it is also the goal. You added that friendly CTA. But this one is constraint that keep it less than 40 words. And then you say that ask 2 questions and go ahead. Okay. Uh, so with the audience, and I say young kids this time. And the second one, and don't worry about the small smelling mistake. And I say yes, mention my name, my studio name, and it again asks for go. I like it because that proves that AI listen. It's all that you need to guide it rightly. So थोड़ा break लो दोस्तों. Join our meditation class at Joey's Wellness Studio. Chill vibes, calm mind, fresh energy. आज ही ज्वाइन करो, पीस फील करो. Wonderful. And that also applies to our sessions. Join our sessions, and we promise you, you will be learning a lot of things. And in few weeks, if you follow this ChatGPT Zero to Hero series, you are gonna be building applications and solutions which will solve real world problems. Now we are looking at prompts. We are gonna go much more higher, much more complicated topics as we go along with geocoding. Okay. So keep following us. If you have not followed us, if you have not subscribed us, this is the moment to do that. Okay, so to the next topic, ask for numbered options. Variety on demand. This is another my favorite thing, but sometimes even though uh, AI gives very nice options like we saw earlier, still we like options, right? AI gives the good response still. Uh, we become choosy and we become greedy sometimes as well, that we want more. Okay. I like to do that sometimes. So for example, here I say that, hey, give me 3 Instagram hooks for a weekend yoga workshop rank by likely engagement, and ask 2 questions and go. And this time I'm gonna get rid of this statement because I wanna do a little bit faster. And having a look at time, we are about 13-14 minutes ahead. So that's okay. We are doing fine on the time front. Your weekend reset starts on the mat. That's one of the idea, and so goes the other ones. And it also says that how it ranks based on its own understanding. And did we say anything? Yeah, we asked for rank by likely engagement. Okay. So so far it has some context, right? Based on the conversation that we are doing in this chat. And you may think that how did it find that this will have the engagement? So don't forget, everything that you are talking in this chat window has already built a context for AI. So it knows that we are talking about Bengaluru. It knows we are talking about certain Joey's wellness studio, and some of the information it knows. So that helps it generate better answer. And with that context, it is generating some guidance, and you can choose out of it. We'll not go into analyzing the results, otherwise we're gonna be taking hours. So, okay, so with that, let's take a couple of questions from our audience. And I see some questions coming. Why should I tell ChatGPT who it is? Can't it just guess from my question? Oh, wonderful question. So it may, and but guess is a guess, right? Guess could be good, guess could be not right. That's the nature of guess. And sometimes you like it, sometimes you are doing brainstorming and you want to have clean slate that I don't care whatever comes out of it. But in majority cases, when you are asking a question, you have certain expectation, right? And in that situation, you would like that expectation to be matched. Okay. So if you are able to provide that context, AI gives you very nice question. But there are instances like you want to know something about the core of moon and you don't even know the words there. You don't have any other context. And just because you think you want to ask, you started asking. Okay. Uh, so that could be the reason. Okay. Now going forward to the second question. That's I see. How detailed should my background or context be before giving a task? Uh, that's a very nice question. And there's no black and white answer to it. Okay. It's not like, okay, you have to provide 5 pages of context or you have to provide just 2 lines of context. The thing important is there should be clarity in your context. Okay. And the context should be not ambiguous. Okay. Because if you if you feed ambiguity in your context itself, then what answer you're gonna get? Okay. And if you look at AI, it's really a number predictor, and it predicts based on what context you have provided, what information you have provided. And context plus your question together become the whole input for the AI. Okay. So there's no real black and white answer for it. But I would say that just focus on clarity, and if you think that this is enough, that's good enough to for AI. Okay. And then perhaps before we move forward, there's another thing. The context, context is also very disturbing sometimes because we all play different roles in our life, right? Sometimes I'm a student, but other time I'm a teacher. Uh, and if I provide a context of my role as one unique role, it conflicts because I cannot provide myself as a teacher or myself as a tutor or learner. So those are the situations when a lot of context could be actually problematic. So context should have clarity for having the best answer. Yeah. Moving on to our second act, remembering the mission. That's where our some tips come towards how do I keep reusing what I have taught AI. So if I spend a couple of hours today, I talked about Joey's thing, and how will Joey ChatGPT will remember that this is a talk about Joey. Yeah. There are many ways to do that, and I'll share with you some easy to do things. For example, you did a conversation that went to very long. Now you want to have a clean slate where you start to have some new chats. So you use this existing and you say that, hey, summarize this chat in 5 bullets, I can paste at the top of our next chat. Use neutral tone. So now I get inputs, like you are creating social media and message copy for Joey's Wellness Studio and so on. Okay. Now I go to a new chat. Okay. Below is the context for all the conversation going forward in this chat window. Okay. Let's say I provide that. And then AI takes it. Okay, perfect. We get this context. Go ahead. Whatever you talk, I'll remember this. Okay. And we will see that in subsequent questions. There's another way in which you can do the similar thing. Okay. Wherein you go into project folders, one thread per theme. Now, I was telling you earlier that context could be conflicting because there are certain times when we have mutually exclusive role which do not go together. Okay. Uh, so how do we do that? And projects are really the wonderful things for that very problem. Okay. So for example, I'll show you how projects to be created. You will see on the left, there's an option called projects. Here, if you go, you can create project like Joey, the tutor. Okay. Like we talked, or you can create another one wherein you say that Joey, the student. Okay. So something like that. You can create two tutors, two projects, and you can have completely varying context. And how to provide the context? We go back to one approach wherein you just pasted here that this is my context, and let's do the conversation as all along. The other way around is also to use the feature called add files. Here you can add all kind of documents, code files, images, and more. What I like often is you can create a PDF file out of it, and you can attach it there, and that could be a nice way to do it. In fact, I can give it a shot to show you. It's pretty straightforward. You create a file, you just attach it there, and that's it. It works. So let me do something very quickly. And I did not prepare for it for this presentation, but I'm pretty sure I can do that very, very quickly. So give me 1 second, and I'm almost there. Okay. Hold on a second. I'm looking at my other screen if I have that information handy. Okay. So what I did, I got something created very quickly here. And let's see this. Okay, here is this document. I created a PDF very quickly, and that PDF said that this is the brand, audience, and the same information which we just talked about. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is that I go to our ChatGPT window, I click on add files, and I say add. I could do that, but let's not do that way. Let's do this way. Upload the file. It may take a couple of seconds, not longer. It's a small file. Let's see. Come on, come on, come on. Done. Okay. Now onward, if I do any talk, this window, this project, which can have multiple chats in it, will know this information. Okay. Hi, can you create a marketing guide for my shop? Okay. I did not say the name of the shop, right? Just to see that whether it's remembering. And it does remember that we are talking about Joy Wellness Studio. So let's get back to our topic, okay? And that was good enough to explain how this project folder works. You have some examples which you can make use of when you do the practicing. Let's move forward to finding Joy's voice, okay? This is the third act, very important. You learned how to give the context. You learned how to give the context, then you learned how to maintain the memory. Now we talk about how to have a voice of Joey so that AI gives answer always in the tone that Joey like. You must have heard something called brand voice or brand tone. Okay. So so it relates there. If it is beauty and wellness, or if it is some other kind of a store which always like to target energetic voice with young audience, it may choose a different voice than some other segment or some other shop which is trying to attract its customers. Okay, so that's when it comes improve, and let's say with an example. Okay, here we say that improve this caption but keep my casual voice. Okay, and this is the simplest one. We'll go more towards it, wherein what it says, and we start, well, we can use this chat. Okay, so I say that improve this caption but keep my casual voice, keep emoji light, max 40 words, ask one question, release go. Okay, then I put this prompt, and I expect it should ask first that give me the caption because I did not provide the caption. So please share the original caption you want me to improve. Okay, then I will rewrite it. And I'd ask one question, so it chose question wisely. What question is that? And let's say I have got this one, just finished another yoga class. Okay, and I put it here, just finished another yoga class. And my ask is to write it in a casual voice. That's my ask. No emojis, no much emojis. Okay. So it gave me some options with the approach that I guided. Okay. Three in much light, much casual way with light on emojis. Okay. Going back. So that was about how you can give it a tone that this is how you give responses. But still it did not feel like your own. Okay, the Joey's voice. Now Joey has really a specific tone. Joey want that tone. How to get that one? And that's when um, training AI with an example helps a lot. So here Joey says that, hey, you always match the tone of below lines when rewriting my caption. So now Joey is really telling that this is the way of saying I use. These are the line of statement I make. Okay, follow the same rhythm, follow the same tone. So now if it is taught that match the tone of below lines when rewriting my caption. Okay, and let's see what AI does. Okay, so the same ones, the ones that it has written. Okay, now it will write in the way this specific example is in the same tone. For example, it still gave the three examples, but now these three examples are matching the tone. Just finished another yoga class, slow breathes, quiet mind, and that sweet post flow calm. How's your morning unfolding? So you see, it is much contrast than this one. Here, AI was just guessing that maybe this could work well. It, all of it is casual, but it was not following the tone. But now it follows the exact tone that Joey uses. So that's the power of providing the tone. Okay. Another good thing is next to the tone, if you provide the audience cue that for whom it is, okay, that also helps AI very nicely. And I really recommend you, especially if you are into SME and you are using AI to create these captions, make use of this trick. Okay. And then you get much more information targeted to your audience. Okay. So you get very nice example, okay, uh, targeted to the audience that you are looking for. Okay, so we go to one more one to complete this section, and that is few short prompting, wherein a lot of people and organizations, they have certain terminology they use for rhythmic approach, okay, and AI is the best one to define such a thing. Earlier, it used to cost a lot because you need to have professional people who can really help you define such terminology that you use consistently, but now you can do that with just some smart prompts. Okay. So let's say you are training that, hey, huge example, whenever I have to say breathing, then I use reset your mind. Whenever I have to say stretching, I will be actually saying wake your body. Okay. In the same approach, continue with three similar lines. Okay. And then I get rid of this question. I'll let it be one question. It's still okay. So flow, sit, slow your thoughts, a smile, feel the ease within. Okay. So this way you can create your own glossary of words or your glossary of your business's terminology that you can use consistently. Okay. Why does tone matter so much if ChatGPT already writes politely? That's that's a good one. We saw a very good example. I think that one is the guide for us. Why do we need the tone? You saw when we just said that, hey, just keep it casual. It was keeping it casual. Before we said keep it casual, it was just writing something. It was still writing for the same purpose, but not in the way you liked it. And then when we provided the exact tone, how the answer changed, a lot changed in the same kind of flow that you like it. Okay. Think of it, we make Sachin Tendulkar speaking like Narendra Modi. You don't want that, right? Sachin Tendulkar is Sachin Tendulkar. He has certain tone, certain pace in which he wanna speak. Okay. So that's why that's where tone matters. Okay. Same is for enterprises. Next question, what's the difference between giving example and just describing what I want? That's a good one. Say, often we are human, right? Having something very clear, crystal clear is wonderful if we can get. But examples are are often the reality, okay? The real thing than the explanation. So what we have experienced that AI works very nice if you are able to give some of the examples to it, then it does much more rightly, because the way it interprets internally is not known to us, right? How it interprets your words if you are just explaining, then how it interprets when you are giving the example. So with that, let's move to our next section, and that is insights without plugins. This is one of my favorite. I do that very advanced use cases with that. And now we are moving towards the space where you will see more and more real world use cases with some real business use cases. Okay. So people use that for as a sparring partner for tell me a story and tell me a joke, but then you can also do a lot of data analytics with it. Okay. So here in this example, I kept it simple. There's a table, months and clients, and you got Jan, Feb, March, April, and you say that, hey, use the table and give me month over month trend. Keep two bullets, and you will be surprised it does very well. Okay. And this is piece of cake for it. Okay. So let's do that. Client numbers are rising overall, steady growth from 32 in January to 52 in April. The biggest jump happened February, showing momentum early in the year, goes on. It does wonderful job. And this is a small case. You can also upload larger CSVs and it will really do wonderful job. You shall try it. I really recommend to try it. Next one, ask for patterns and anomalies. And this is even better because often in large data set, it's the people who are not very much techy, they find it challenging how to figure out, and maybe you spend hours just to look at record by record to figure it out. It does it wonderful, and I'll show you exactly what I'm saying. Okay, from the clients table that we provided above, find two patterns and one anomaly. Okay, and let's see what it does. Okay, one line explanation for each one. Pattern one, client count increases every month. Growth rate slows after February. So you see client is growing, growth is decreasing. So after February, growth has decreased a bit. Rate, not the growth itself, because in the April month is 52. February's sharp jump stands out as unusually high. Okay, so this one, the pattern was the curve is sudden high there. So it does very nice with these kind of things, data analysis, and make use of it. You can upload your Excel sheet, CSV. It does wonderful job. Next one, describe visuals in words. Okay, uh, it can go two ways. So let's see this example. Describe how a bar chart of month versus client would look like. Okay, for the same example, I say that, okay, let's describe it. What does it look like and see what it does. Okay. And this whole section talks about data analytics basically, that you and all of us use some sort of data analysis, be it a shopkeeper who is doing daily calculation, or be it advanced engineer who is building some solution. So we all do that, okay? And it gave a explanatory view of what does it look like. Then I can say that, hey, draw it visually, okay? Now this is where it gets very interesting, uh, because often you might think that it's just for questioning answering, and then it surprises you. See, this view is so nice. You get a perspective of what's happening in a very nice graph, and you can guide it that which kind of graph you are looking for. In fact, the next one was exactly that one. The describe how that was describe this as a bar chart. So we did already. This was one of another example. So let's move on with that to Act 5. Okay, we completed data analytics. Use AI ChatGPT for data analytics. It is wonderful. Okay. Power moves. Now we are getting into real world use cases. Okay, so far we talked about how to do regular conversation. Now we will talk about real use cases, which will slowly turn into your business case. Many people are creating a lot of business model out of it. They are making even money out of it with these things. Okay, so let's see if Joey is wanting to see all that happening in India and Indian region in wellness and yoga space for in last 7 days, if anything significant has come up. Okay, rather than going on Google and searching, now what Julie does, she say that, hey, this is the topic, and I want you to look for some information, 5 bullets max, and include source name and date in bracket, one liner, why this matters at the end. So if it is relevant to her, okay, and that's the question she's asking. Let's see what does ChatGPT do if we ask this question. Okay. It basically gonna look at the internet for you. It will find out pointed outcome that you are looking for. So not just anything, the way you ask for, and the responses, 5 responses relevant for you. Why it's relevant? Wellness tourism in India is rising. Hotels are launching more yoga retreats and nature immersed experience. Okay. The second one, yoga and wellness routines are being highlighted by Indian celebrities as essential calm, focus, and balance. Times of India on November 2. So it gives you very nice information the way you like it. Okay. And that's when it start becoming very much purposeful. Now let's say the need of Joey gets increased. Now Joey gets very much motivated. She think that, oh, I'm able to get the mine the information from internet. What if I turn it into my own newsletter wherein I share breaking news? This is what is happening in wellness and yoga. You will see a lot of breaking news coming from various players in various industry. A lot of them make use of this technique. Okay, so now we go a bit in that space wherein the specification of output, she went ahead and she defined exactly that my headline should be kept like this, with a bold headline, and then a headline kept there. Then I should have source in certain format and source name, a link of the website, a quick summary, not more than 2 sentences, takeaway, if there is a takeaway, create a punchy line, and discussion topic. Also generate a discussion topic. One bullet, maximum 20 words. Okay. Now she is going somewhere. Okay. So the small chats started to become a project. And let's see what AI does once he asks this way. It will give you much more richer response that can be used directly in various kind of newsletters. So example, you get headline, you get a source date, you got a link, you got quick summary to trigger any conversation, you get a takeaway, and then you got a discussion point. Okay. And this can be used a lot by our news people as well. So with that, let's move to the next one. I think we are doing okay with the time front. We started around 5:05. Okay, so we are doing fine. So create a prompt vault. Okay. Now, once you do all these conversation, you feel like I'm doing a lot of things. The next time I come, I don't want to miss out those prompts. And prompts, for starters, prompts is the questions that we are asking in certain format. Okay. So if something you want to make it reusable, then it's a good idea to convert that into a reusable thing. And let's say how you do that. Okay. For example, what I said, that turn my first 5 successful prompts into reusable templates with placeholders like audience, tone, length, name each template. Okay. So now what it did, it created 5 templates. And just give me a second. I'm getting a question. Yeah. Okay. So caption enhancer template, uh, it basically produces some of the, not some, 5 prompts that we asked for as template. And you see the point which is variable. It kept it as a variable point for non-coders. Don't get lost with this. This is not coding. This is just a placeholder. So when you use next time, let's say you want to again create a mindful caption. Okay, you don't have to remember how to do that. You can just make use of this template and you just paste it there. It will ask you that, okay, fine. What is your original caption? What is the tone? What is the length? What is the emoji count you want? What is the question type? And what is the release on, where will you release it? Okay, it will ask you these 6 questions. Okay. And every time you will have same experience of generating the caption. Okay. That is what is a reusable prompt. Okay. Now the next natural question, which perhaps is the next tip, I believe, is that I think is here somewhere, but anyway, we'll circle back to that one, or maybe I'll cover right away when it comes later. Then I'll explain it that we covered here. Is where to keep these captions. Okay, and the best place to keep it is either if you are working on free version, then keep it in some kind of notepad or someplace, and you paste it here. The other nice way to do that is, and that's actually the cleaner way, is to upload it here as your project file. And every time you discuss, then it knows that these are your prompts that you are referring to. So that's another way. And there's third way, wherein what you can do, you go to settings, and here inside your somewhere, I think personalization, yeah, custom instruction. Here also you can put some of your prompts, but this is not the space to maintain a lot of things. You can maybe keep some of them. Okay. So with that, I was seeing some questions. So let's pick up one question. Perhaps we are still on time, so we can do one, and then maybe we'll take some more questions at the end. How can ChatGPT summarize reliable news if it does not browse the web? Oh, okay. Okay. Um, this uh, ChatGPT has access to internet, and nowadays almost every uh, larger providers, be it Grok or Gemini, all of them has internet connectivity. Okay. But if you ask this question as in a local AI, it will not answer. It will not be able to answer because it's not connected to internet. However, ChatGPT will be able to answer because it is connected to internet. A fun fact is majority of the websites at the moment on internet are facing huge traffic on their website, not because many people have started looking at their website, but because now AI agents are just everywhere. They are Someone is asking question that, hey, explain me about Joey's wellness, and then Joey's website is triggered. No customer, it's just the AI which is looking at Joey's website. So, and that is causing a lot of demand in infrastructure of the websites. So with that, let's move on to the next topic, and that is meeting to action converter. This is my favorite. And nowadays there are also some plugins for various paid meetings, but many a times when you are doing some simple meetings and you have or you are doing offline meeting and you just captured some of the notes, you want to have it turned into a very good action, use this kind of prompt to generate the actions very, very nicely. See, now it's plan June promo, need budget, assign reels, and book community class venue. These are the notes that Joey has written, and she want to turn it into action item. And let's see what it does. It will create some nice setup that what is there for Joey, what is there for the team, and what is there for the vendor. Okay, that Joey should finalize the June promo, Joey should book the community class, and team should plan the June promo timeline, assign and schedule reels, and so on. So that's very handy. At least it helps me when I do my chats with my wife and I get the action items from her with a small write-ups. Then I turn it into real action items. Okay, so with that, we move towards some other real world use cases. Okay, and now we are talking about more real world use cases, and as we go along, we're gonna do much more. Okay, so let's say if someone is writing, "Hey team, project is behind, please hurry, or we are in trouble." Okay, um, it did not have a tone. It did not. It did not we are all so busy sometime, even if our intent is right, the intent may not reach to the right people in right way, the way we want to. And that's when the tone, again, there was a question in the past, that topic also comes back here. That tone is very important. So this example, we are saying that this messy email, turn it into a very clean, with clarity, polite, but at the same time assertive email. Okay, this is the best one when ChatGPT plays wonderful if you use this trick. Okay, and your email gets transformed. Okay, all that you needed to provide is that what is your intent. Your message remains the same. Project is behind. Hurry up. We are in trouble. These were the three messages. It is still at the same. We are behind. We need to pace. Okay. And the last one, we are in trouble. Okay. So it also goes somewhere that we are in trouble. Okay. So it does say all those things, but in a way that is much more understandable and acceptable by people. Okay, moving on. Give 5 caption options for International Yoga Day. So now we are trying to create a caption factory, ranked options. Okay, this is a wonderful setup to do because it can create ranking by certain way. Okay, now you are doing by clarity. You can do with some other factor as well. So let's see here. For example, if I do give 5 caption options for International Yoga Day ranked by clarity, add one hashtag per option, and it will give you answers with clarity one breath, one move, one moment of calm. That's yoga. Happy International Day. Wow, I love it. I think I'm gonna steal it for the next time. It's really clear. It says what I would have said. Uh, Perhaps not with these nicer words. So I like it. That's how you make use of Caption Factory with some ranking that gives you a thought. Okay. Then comes a power booster, global shortcut commands. Okay. Now, with all these things doing, you got prompts, you got some rule, you got context. It's a lot of information, and sometime there are certain things you do that often. Okay. And one thing I do that often is that trying to understand the topic that I don't know, okay, completely, okay, completely out of my space. This is not, but let's say this is an example. So for some of you who are non-techie, okay, and what it does, these global sort queues, they call it, okay, that if you write this way slash ELI5, it means explain like I am 5. Okay, so these are shortcuts, and then you give the question, and it will explain you as a as if you are 5 years old. Okay, in very simple words. Here's how it works. Everyone has a copy of notebook, so it took some analogy to explain. Okay, and that helps. There's some more. I really like the critic because it helps me some of the concepts and some of the text that I write. I put that on critic and I say that, hey, give the critical look at this email and give me a response. The bullets also help when you have you want answer, but you want bulleted answer. You can say bullets, or if you have a text and you want to turn it into bullets, then also you can use it. This one, TLDR, wonderful if you have some website and it has a lot of information and you just want to have a look at it. For example, this one is Interfaith Foundation introducing the cherry tree pathway. It's a long story, okay? And if I say the TLDR, so too long, uh, then give me a short write up, a short read up for this one. Then it gave you error. That was not expected. Perhaps I'm making use of ChatGPT a lot. This free version, it has some limitations, so that could be the reason. So we'll not stop because of that. We'll keep moving. Similarly, there's some list of other things. I recommend you to have a look at it. These are my favorite ones that I've listed, but there are more. So you can do you can go in ChatGPT and you can ask show me all the global shortcut commands. Okay, then you can see all of those. Then even interesting one is the local ones. So it's not just that shortcuts can be created by ChatGPT. You can also create your own shortcuts. So remember we talked about some prompts and prompt repository. You can create similarly some caption queues as well. So slash queues, let's say I say the write an Instagram caption in a friendly local tone, input topic or theme, output 1 to short lines with emoji and CTA. So this is the ask I'm saying, and is the slash queue of my own. So whenever I will say caption, it should work. And I gave it an example so that it understands that when I'm saying caption morning yoga, then it gave me a response in that order. Output 1 to short lines with emoji plus CTA. Okay. And let's say I defined it. Now that is defined. And then I take one of the example here. Let's take this one. Here, the example was morning yoga. Now I try evening meditation and see what comes out. Okay. I did, and on the same line, it gives me one-liner response, and then it also gives a CTA, call to action, and then it gives me the couple of hashtags. Okay, so that's very handy to make use of your own caption. Okay, now end with a reusable summary. So this is also very interesting because I do use AI for a lot of brainstorming, and sometimes my chats are as big as a few hundred, if not thousands, pages, a single chat. Okay. So then summarizing is really handy. It helps me, and it also sometimes crystallize to take it to other window. It's also related to the topic that somebody asked, that how big context is a good context. And when you start using AI more, you will realize that a lot of context is sometime poisonous as well. It did not help. It actually create a problem. So you wanna start a fresh sometime from one window to another window. And that time, having these summaries helps, then you can make it to some other chat window, okay, without needing to start from fresh, okay. So let's say we decided that established a caption, we decided because this was a new window already, we did not do a lot of thing. So it did not have a lot of topic, it talks mostly about caption, okay. So that's how you end with a reusable summary that you can make use of in another session. Then the final one, that is the Gajni rule, okay? And that's basically system over memory, okay? So our memory fades, but the systematic approach remains, okay? If we follow a systematic approach of how we'll manage the context, always role, goal, constraint, and if we organize ourselves well, the per project, if you maintain prompt vault, uh, your work is much more consistent. And that's the main takeaway. Ghazni was super powerful, but when he was not having that aid, uh, he was just lost. Even to his opponent, sometimes he felt that it's a friend, and to the friends, he was sometimes like enemy. Okay, so that's the case with AI. You need to really have a system around it to make it consistent, make it as you expect. Okay, so let's have a look if there are some more questions, and we don't have much time, so we can do maybe one or two question. In Joy's wellness studio example, can you apply the same system to a different industry like education or retail? I love this question, and the reason why I picked up this Joey's story, because the stories make you connect, and to understand how a business or a small and medium businesses make use of these capabilities. Uh, this is absolutely reusable, with a different tone, different target audience, but it's absolutely reusable. And in subsequent sessions, we will talk much more about it. Let's go to the next one, and that says, why should I ask questions back and use Go? Isn't that slowing me down? It does. It does slow you down, but it slows you down for good many a times. For example, when I ask a question about, I want to know how the NASA something happened. Okay, and I don't know much about it, that what context I need to provide of my question. I have a question, but my question has not saved up very nice. So this setup helps me a lot, because then AI says that to answer this question, I need to know a little bit more. So it had the opportunity to ask you all the questions. That's one. The second one is, I really hate, and I know, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who hate when you ask a question and you get 5 pages of response, and then you need to again ask a question to get another 5 pages of response, and then you need to do tweaking of one line. Okay. Rather, you want first the Q&A to happen and then get a response, right? So this Go helps you to slow down and do that conversation and then get to that step. Okay. In next episode, as I said, that this is a series, and we're gonna have multiple more episodes in this, and we will go step by step, as we started with the free version and the prompt engineering. Next one, we're gonna do more advanced prompt engineering, where we will see real world use cases, and we are talking about use cases like like a financial advisor, how is he making use of AI to generate annual profit and loss statement? Okay, and how does he do that? Okay, those kind of sophisticated use cases. Okay, and then we'll go towards much more advanced things, something for the future. I will not explain all of it now. Uh, we will share you more details. We are always happy, and we love that you follow us, subscribe us, and provide your inputs. With that, let's conclude the session. We today we discussed about how Joey built a lightweight system that makes ChatGPT reliable, fast, and personal without agents or fancy extras. It's just ChatGPT, that too free version. We looked at it everything into ChatGPT free without having a ChatGPT Plus. And disclaimer. We have no association with ChatGPT or OpenAI, so all the feedbacks provided are genuine here with our personal experience. We are not endorsing any tool or product on this stage yet. Now, so episode 2 will expand this into power features, but for now, Joey Studio runs smoother than ever. Here were the tips that we discussed, and I hope you are able to try them out. We will provide the link of the document in the description box. Thank you. See you. Bye bye.